was like, should I go or should I? I was gonna like step back like.
We probably just ended up with in Montez's office because he had a major meltdown. So.
Should I stay or should I go?
There, Barb, where were you?
Oh, I don't care. I'll go right there. I was just looking.
Good.
Did you need anything?
You wanna sit on me?
I will sit by you.
Do we have any celebrations to start?
Huh?
Any celebrations to start?
Oh.
I had some kids full small groups today, which was, could either crash or burn.
I'm not eating, but okay.
They did good. So far, I've
I am eating
did
good.
that full, but
I've been having, y'all want me to wait for a second?
No, go for it.
Okay. I've been having my springboard kids every day that we've been doing like the different lessons. I've done more problems every day.
Mhm.
And I've had them, every day they've known if it's multiplying or dividing, so I had them write the reason on every one. And I said, don't tell me the same reason, because they're different reasons. And then I like have different reasons it could be on the board. And then what I do is today I mixed them and they did really well with it. Like they still got confused on some of them, but overall, like me having them write it, I think it's helping. They still messed up, you know, like on one of the problems, they divided the wrong
Right.
order, but they still knew it was dividing.
Okay, that's good.
So I think that's helped them writing their reasons. Whereas for, you know, I would do it for regular David, stress them.
Small groups are happening in all the classes I'm going in.
I think, I was gonna say, to add to that, I think it was a lot smoother than I thought with the small groups. Students were really, they were getting those two things and they were really working well, helping each other out, not just themselves. And then when I was walking on, just the talk that I was hearing was awesome. So I thought they forgot some of it, so, yeah, I think it was good.
Very, very productive.
Any other celebration?
Springboard. I was gonna say thank y'all. All of y'all did a great job. I popped into everybody's room, so I appreciate y'all letting me come in to see your Springboard. And you guys are stellar, and so I would like, when Springboard comes, they're coming next month, but it's like when y'all are taking your test, but they said they're coming back 3 more times. So I would like this campus to be a campus that we come to, so.
Hey, hopefully they bring the textbooks with them.
I already talked. Hey, that's not my fault. That's
I know, I thought I hope they
ordering.
bring the
That's
textbook.
an ordering issue. But I did talk free about that, and they're gonna swap algebra. We have too many. We have 400 Algebra 1 books. We have too many at the warehouse. They're gonna swap that for 100 Course 1 books. So that should get you and you.
I didn't have any either. It's 3 of us here.
So we're not the gold child, it's something.
I just need to know.
I thought everyone had books.
I did too. So.
Well, we didn't know.
Well, I just need to know how many books everybody needs, so I actually have an actual count I can take back today.
I had no idea until just
So
now.
if y'all can get a chance, if you will shoot me an actual count, so.
Well, we
Still
have some,
missing
don't we
92.
have some left over?
I don't know. I don't have any, so.
You need 69.
Let me check with Carrie, 'cause
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Carrie still has some,
Okay.
but not like enough. I'll
Can
check
you-
with her.
okay,
I've got 1 box in my ring.
I have another
Oh, okay.
celebration.
But how much is in a box? I can't think right now.
24.
And then you took 2 of them.
I would say that our gym duty was good today,
I have 20.
because that was an issue. So I think gym, we all
Don't even get me
did
started.
what we were
on that.
supposed to. So thank you for that though. That makes us look good.
I need 41.
And we all did stay back and make sure the kids were out.
Yes, which I can see how that can be an issue because we would always leave so quick. There could be fights that.
Can we
break
just
between
direct
us.
it next time, go straight down the hallway before going down?
I don't know.
Sorry, that was me.
Any more celebrations before? Lisa?
Christina made it through her first math session.
Oh, wait.
I did. It was a little bit of a nightmare.
Oh, you did. But I was you were fine.
That is good. It's boring,
Actually, I enjoyed it because I got so much today.
It's kind of like peaceful, because we never get that peace, I think, as math teachers. I think every once in a while.
I played like 2 weeks.
It's kind of nice. I got all my filing done.
You did?
It took me 5 days to get through math testing with 5 kids.
You what?
It took me 5 days to get through 5 kids of math testing. Oh yeah, the struggle is real.
The struggle is real. Any more celebrations?
I'm still alive.
Yay!
Yay! All
Because I don't
right.
have to hurry.
So, the next thing is supporting peaks for Unit 3. This is, you could easily teach the supporting peaks as like a mini lesson. I can't recall the supporting peak numbers right off the top of my head. But one of the big ones is identifying whether your product is going to be greater than or less than your factors when you multiply, especially with fractions. And I was just curious if anyone had any good ideas for how to tie in those supporting peaks with 6.3b.
Which one did you say? Bigger or smaller?
6.3b, so determine with or without
Yeah,
computation.
so how I definitely did this with my springboard kids. And when we did the multiplying fractions, like 5-1, I had, each time we had the product, I could have them compare it. We did the cross products, and they came to the realization that when both factors are less than 1, the product will be less than the factors. Whereas when the products, and then I said, like, well, it's 4 times 5, and it's 20. And I said, well, when the products are both factors are greater than 1, the product will be greater. So the kids know less and less, the product will be less. Greater, greater, the product will be greater. And then I said, okay, well, what happens when you have a number that's greater than 1 but less than 1? And they found out that the product was less than the greater number but greater than the smaller number, so it was in between.
I was thinking too, last year, do you remember when we took a hundreds grid and we shaded one way, one color? So if it was 4/10 and then 2/10, I wonder if we did that, if we could
So
say,
they could see it.
so that visually they could see the number of squares.
Because I know
Decreasing rate.
Khan Academy has that multiplying with visuals.
So that might be a
That-
good,
We do that.
That's difficult.
well, it would be easy for less and less, but then
But
I
they
was
can
trying
see
to think
that.
about whole numbers with less, that might be too hard.
The way the visuals.
Last year I did
The way they have the
I did like a
visuals
mini
on
lesson, I
top.
remember, and I made them go through, and I think I had like 4 sections, and I made them go through and multiply, and then, and where I had made sure that they were both less than 1, then I made them go through and multiply with mixed numbers. I did each type, and I made them multiply every time, and then like I had a question afterwards, what do you notice about your answer? So they kind of halfway figured it out.
So we could almost have like 3.
I was thinking of doing a class debate, so putting a problem up on the smartboard and be like, all right, if you think the answer will be bigger, go to this side of the room. If you think the answer will be smaller, go to this side of the room.
Mhm.
And pick one person from each side and have them solve it. And then that way they're solving it, and everyone as they're solving it are talking about what's going on with the answer. So then hopefully you find a pattern, because I'll do a few examples, but I wouldn't do it for a whole class period, just an activity.
I think that might keep them engaged too, and then if they're arguing, they're more wanting to listen
Or
than.
they're
Some people
arguing
follow
to
us, the one
justify
person
their
says,
Yeah.
oh, they're smart, I'm gonna
To
follow
prove it.
I like
them.
debate, but you know what, I wanna go back to your modeling, that's a 5th grade teach, so there's nothing wrong with what you're saying to do with that, cause I think that might remind them. And you could even go back to, full of 5th grade concept or 5th grade question, cause they did multiply by a whole and a fraction, or a fraction by a whole.
Oh, so they would know.
They would, and they did that in 5th grade, they did the highlighting and the coloring, so that wouldn't hurt. I think there's a springboard lesson as well, am I not 5-1? Doesn't
Yeah,
5-1
has
has
it, yeah.
that? So maybe we could pull 5-1, have I given you my login? For
Not
Springboard?
yet.
I
What,
thought I gave you my login.
Okay.
But there's a lesson, and
What I
think
do
that
with,
shouldn't be bad.
what I do with the kids and they, on the, cause we had the check your understanding 5-1 where they had a grid.
Yeah.
And they had to, what I had to do was the columns were yellow highlighter, and then the rows were blue highlighter, and then once they intersected it, those two, had a reaction, made it green, so they could see the
Uh-huh.
green part.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was.
Curricular, art.
There you go. But Kelsey, I think that would be, I like what you're saying, because they should know that from
Uh-huh.
5th grade, and I know your 5th grade team did a really good job, they made
I
them color all
remember
day
seeing
long.
the nub through the coffee room, and so we could
Yeah.
ask
The
them
springboard
too.
remembered it, because I
They
did it with
do.
the springboard, and they're like, oh, we did this last year.
And your
Wouldn't it be
notes.
bad? Like with the whole number, you're
Your
literally
notes
shading
from
over
last
a
year,
whole-
do you remember
they
those
still
notes you
see
did
it.
for this unit last year? It has a grid
Mm-hmm.
for that
For the decimal,
too,
yeah.
yeah, so that, I think it's good, I think it's solid, I think
So
you
we could
should.
tie in maybe both, that way they're debating and they have to prove it with the pictures
Yeah.
And
or
I like-
something.
I like what you did yesterday, Austin, with that warm-up question. You said to them, you literally said to them, is your answer gonna be greater than or less than? He actually, that's exactly what he said, and they're all like, well, you know what I mean?
But if you keep asking them,
You-
eventually they start.
Exactly, and so I
Well-
thought that was
And then I used the same agenda as his yesterday, and when I told them when they were solving, I was like, if you already, because we already know, so right away we could have got rid of 2 of the answers because they were greater than. I think it was 2 or 1 of the answers was greater than. So they said already we already know that these 2 answers won't work because they're smaller than 1.
So y'all are just talking about like kind of throwing this in, right?
Yeah,
Along with everything else, 'cause I'm trying to get a picture of.
6-3 is such
this.
a monster,
Okay.
and they struggle with it all,
The
they'll
entire
struggle with
year.
it in May, they'll
Okay.
still.
They struggle with it in
So-
7th grade, because the
Yeah.
7th grade TEK is,
Oh, yeah.
7th grade TEK is all,
I already heard from them.
all their
That's what I
grades.
wanted
I already heard from
Did you
Rudolph.
hear? Yeah.
So you can throw it in maybe through your I will, we wills, or.
Yeah.
It is struggling.
It is.
No matter how you teach it.
Well,
Just
normally what
by
I do,
your
like next
calculator,
week, I'll
so
have
it
them
doesn't matter.
practicing word problems, and while they're practicing word problems, I'll pull them up and do these kind of
Okay.
with them.
And the table that you had, I guess that's what you were talking about was when we talked about it at lunch, how they were greater than less than. Those are the kind of questions
Yeah.
we went over.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so, but I just want to make sure I was
So
on the
take
right
your
track.
5th grade concepts that you used last year
Yeah,
and just extend it.
Okay.
Because you know how we did it was a whole by a fraction or fraction by whole.
right,
It's just like we gotta remind them of that, and then now let's make it fraction by fraction.
exactly.
Fraction by, you know what I mean? So just,
Right.
that's all we're doing. And
Okay.
you wouldn't think it's hard, but it is.
When I see those fractions, they just freeze.
Okay.
One of mine was solving a question today, and I said, I just scratched out both fractions, and I wrote like 12 and 2.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what's the answer? They said 6. I said, well, you just divided. Why were you multiplying before? And they're like, oh,
It's crazy how they do that. They literally freak out and forget everything. The only other supporting TEK is the one about the reciprocal, and
I'll do a magic game for that, honestly.
they understood how to find the
Seem to get
reciprocal.
reciprocal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just told them reciprocal is a fancy word for flip.
Yeah.
Which-
I call it the math word.
And they're,
That's what I
I
said.
said the math word is reciprocal, the Incan word is flip.
and they're using reciprocal in class all the time now.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
Now I just made it keep change recip. So
Yeah.
Some kids will say it, some kids will still say keep change flip.
Oh, yeah, Bird, they said, remember, the kiddo said it, and she's like, he said, and you used a reciprocal, and she was like, oh my gosh, it was awesome.
Before I
It was
even got to
so
say it, he
fun.
knew
It
it.
was cool. Yeah.
I took your advice. Well, actually, it wasn't about fractions decimal, but I talked to Calendar the other day. She sent me this. I don't know if it was. I think I'm supporting on it.
Did they send you the rug activity that I told them to send you guys to?
She sent me like 3 things yesterday. I haven't really done like Google Slides that they get on their own Chromebook yet, but she was showing me. Actually, this was last Friday. It's not.
oh, I have those.
Yeah. She might have sent it to everybody. It's like, it has a lot of stuff on here. Once it loads.
Will you use a Pear Deck with this?
No, like you can send them a copy of this in Google Classroom and they can manipulate it themselves. So like, this is just reminding them how to do it. But like it has,
It's interactive. Is this the
Reciprocal,
one where it's
yeah.
interactive?
So are they
Yes.
basically just reading, or no, okay.
so like this one they'd solve it
Okay.
and upload a picture, we wouldn't, like we could edit it. But like this one, they multiply it and then they literally go in and type in their answer so that they get to 21st. I would make sure for a second it wasn't. There's like a lot of stuff.
Does it do it in green if it was right, and if it's wrong, does it do it in a different?
Yeah.
We'll go put 3 on top, because they already had 21 started black.
Oh, no, it doesn't. Oh, okay. I just was wondering if it was a color thing.
I
But
think
there's a
it's just-
lot, like,
JK.
there's these where you drag the answer to the right box. That's like, I thought there
So
was.
just some
That's
good
different.
tools that, yeah.
That was
like-
Riley, Caitlin Riley.
Yeah.
She sent it to me.
Did she?
Yes.
That's what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
It's very interactive.
Yes. Yeah.
You felt it?
Hey.
Listen,
Yeah.
TPT makes me happy. I don't care. I'm gonna go on.
Fox
But-
done something with models too.
Here's a
I'm
math,
sure
there's some
stuff
math
going on.
games too.
I thought it was more supporting, but.
But that would be a good, like,
Well,
good time.
yeah.
For,
That's what Calendar told me, that's what they did. They did it in full small groups while the kids were working on that.
That's a great idea.
you share that with us?
We'll do
I
something
will.
like that.
But no, it's good.
Yeah,
They send you area of the rug, cause that one is.
She sent me yesterday.
What did they send you?
But I
Because
think
the
these
rug
are just-
activity is the one that y'all meet. If not, I'll shoot it to y'all, cause
Oh, that's the same thing.
the rug activity is really good. What did Shelby send you? That's what I meant.
She's,
If my computer actually worked.
There was an interactive something too that actually
she sent me
overlapped
a
online.
multiply or divide, and,
Yes, this one I liked.
That's what I was kinda looking
It's
for.
like word, sort cards.
she sent me
So,
one with this decimals.
oh, just decimals.
Yeah, that's
This
what
is the
it
one I
is.
told him I wanted to fix, cause I wanted it to be fractions and decimals. I think if you download it, it's not all jacked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I think if you download it, it's not all messed up. And they didn't send you the rug? I'll send y'all the rug.
But-
I like the rug activity as well.
For some reason, Google hates fractions.
Yeah, like a lot of things hate fractions.
I have it, I'll share it when I'm not on the.
Alright, any other ideas for the supporting? If you do, just forward it along or send it. But the next thing we're gonna talk about is the common assessment for 6-3E. Just looking ahead, like, after you give it, for those kids who don't get it, what are we gonna do? Or for those kids who do get it, what are we gonna do to push them, to enrich them? I know we're just kinda looking ahead, because that's what we've been practicing, multiplying, dividing, decimals, and fractions. So after we give our comment, we kind of come up with a plan. Beforehand, maybe not a resource, but an idea.
I'm trying to think to extend, I feel like I want my students to be able to really understand, sometimes they just read it and they just do one of the two, multiply or divide, but I really want them to understand why should with the supporting, why should it get bigger, why should it get smaller? And I wanna teach them, make sure they're using test taking strategies, so I don't know if that's not necessarily like extending, but it's making sure they're comprehending.
The ones that get, I'm thinking about giving them one's bookcase, and now I'm trying to work on one's bookcase.
So give them,
That's a
Our
good idea.
PBL,
Mhm.
something that.
That's a good idea. I like that idea.
because I was thinking of doing the PA,
Or that's what, yeah.
Okay.
but I haven't looked at the PA for.
Okay, so, hey, did you look at those questions I showed you, open-ended? On
Yes.
Springboard? What do you think of those?
That's what I was gonna do. With Springboard, I wasn't thinking about regular, but
Okay, so in Springboard, on the assessments, they have open-ended questions.
I can pull that.
Can you pull it up?
No.
What I'm wondering is, I liked them to the point that, and there's two, there's a version, I didn't know there was a version A. There's a version A and a version B. And so Plato found the version A, it's got a number line on it too.
okay.
But
didn't
what
see
I was
that.
thinking is we could print it, cause you can print it, it's not pretty printed, we'd have to space it out and everything.
Well, we can retype it, we
But
can,
yeah, but I think that would be a great extension, like.
Is it assessment?
yeah,
they
the
go into
assessments.
Yeah, sorry, I'll let you run it, sorry.
And then go down to, instead of short cycle, go to end of the unit. And then digital.
Is it just a couple?
Yeah,
There's
it's like
three.
every unit,
Yeah.
right there.
There's three.
See, I don't see the, where's the A at?
So, go to.
Unless it's unit
Scroll
one.
down, go back up. Did you hit assessments?
Yeah.
It should say open-ended after it.
Oh, we went digital though, hang on, it's not
Oh, yeah,
digital.
don't go digital.
That's my fault.
Don't listen to Inca now. Let's look at that. I think version A is further down.
Go down, yeah, just,
Or you don't even have to hit
yeah,
print,
just
like,
hit
you can
choose
just.
on that, just go to choose. There's the open response right there.
Then we go to find A.
Yeah, go look at A, yeah, it's the one that doesn't say version A on it, so.
It's in my
Oh,
throat.
perfect, yeah.
It's in my throat. I'm not sick, I promise.
So if you want, Austin, if you wanna go up, you can see how it looks
Okay, so
printed.
Download it.
Well, it's supposed to say print, but
Yeah.
whatever.
You gotta wait for it to load.
Listen, hurry up.
Well, but they could technically, if we assigned it to them, they could do it on here too, right?
No,
Well,
not for
gen
regular.
ed. I was
Well,
thinking
no,
for your
oh,
gen
for
ed.
gen ed.
We're talking about
this might
regular,
be
yeah.
something- Or you could do it where you put it in a Google form. So you could put these 3 questions in a Google form and let them do it online as well, or.
Or do slides and have them do Peridot, cause with that number line,
So see, I like this, cause I thought that would be,
I do too.
I like the
oh, wait a
3
minute,
questions.
we can't
and
do, we
they're-
have to have premium for Peridot for the number line, don't we?
I don't know, but I like, I like the 3 and I like the 3 on the other side, so that could be an extension, or y'all could create something for those kids with.
So I like that, go back down, I like part B on
Find
this one.
misconceptions.
Yeah, exactly,
Find
yeah.
misconceptions.
I like what BSLD said though, because I haven't gotten there in my gen ed yet, because I don't wanna scare them, but like when Springboard, I always ask, is it getting bigger or smaller, but as an extension for gen ed, if you took something like this and broke it up,
Yeah.
is it getting bigger or smaller, explain why you think that. Now multiply divided, was your hypothesis correct? That's, they're doing word problems and they're still getting the skill, but now they're taking it
that
to another
system.
level.
And you already have the questions, so you don't have to
Yeah.
come up with the questions, just simply, so I don't know, I like these. And I
Mhm.
really like them for Gen Ed too, I think this would push our kids who are already past it, like, I think this would be more, you could go further.
That's true.
I wanna make it interactive for them too, cause I hate that they just get a paper pencil activity.
Well, I was literally thinking like that, they could draw a picture and explain what they're doing because they draw the picture with it. So
Mhm.
it's still them getting a worksheet or a Google Doc, but they're at least creating something with it.
Or you, yeah, like give them one word problem, not have them analyze it, make a poster over it, draw a picture,
I love that,
explain
yes.
if it's getting bigger or
Make a poster for your
smaller.
parents explaining this problem, because your parents don't know how to do this. 'Cause they've
And
been-
take it home.
They're so old,
And
they
you
forgot how to
explain
do
it
that.
to your parents. And PEMDAS.
And come up with 2 more.
Really useful.
I like that.
And we usually struggle with enrichment. That's good.
Yeah.
We'll just start using, I mean, you
I
know,
think-
cause this is, I mean, literally y'all's 3 scores are stellar for a reason, because y'all use the Springboard components so well. So let's start using it, you know.
Well, I think we do so well always at, you know, getting the RTI, like, complete those kids, but we always talk about enriching and we never
You do it.
get to it. So I think if we really, I think that was one of our goals this year anyways. So we really need to push for
I agree.
that.
So now we got the enriched, but what about those who don't get it? So 6-3, those kids who are like, uh-oh, they got all of them wrong. What are we gonna do?
Well, it depends. I haven't done the triangle yet intentionally because I was gonna wait to only give it to those who need it. Because right now, I'm just like Fox was saying earlier, I'm just trying to have them struggle through it. Pick one, multiply by, does your answer make sense? No. Okay, well, you probably picked the wrong operation. So afterwards, I think those that don't get it, I'm gonna try the triangle and see if that helps them. Just a different way, reteach it a different way.
Yeah. I think I need to figure out whether it's the skill that they're not getting
Yeah.
or the word problem. So if they are getting, so let's say they look at the word problem and for some reason they're doing the wrong numbers or the wrong
Mhm.
thing, but they're doing that wrong thing right.
Mhm.
I know they know how to do the skill, so then it's word
That's true.
problems. So then I can just focus on them with analyzing the problem.
So would that be almost start by giving them a word problem, have them solve it, and then look at it?
Well, it's gonna be me looking at their comments
The
too, so I have to
oh, okay.
see what they did on the
Because if they
comment.
divide them, they're supposed to multiply, but they divide
Divided
right.
right.
Yeah.
That's perfect, no, that's a good idea, and then you just go back, cause then that's just a concept problem.
And that's saving you and helping them.
And I did do the triangle to teach the word problems, but with the fractions and finding a part of a number, the triangle really doesn't work for that. It's really hard to explain where to go with it. But what I told them was, I can think of the problem.
Was that our conversation the other
And
night?
then
So-
a question.
No, I know exactly what it was.
Oh, okay.
Or the one I've been working on
And
today.
a fourth of.
It was 4/5 of 540. And so I was like, which is a part, which is a whole? It's confusing. There was more to it in the problem, but this was the first part of the problem. So I told them, and you might get mad at me for this, but I told
Listen,
him.
today I don't care, my head hurts.
This
so
is
I'll
what I
do
did.
whatever.
I did 2 different colors.
Here.
But I said, if you have ever a fraction,
Oh.
if you ever have a fraction like this, and you have the word of right behind it, and then you have it of a number, this of in this case is a multiplying keyword. But I said it doesn't work for of every single time.
No, you're
But
right.
if it's right after the fraction, it's multiplying.
Yeah.
No, that's totally, I mean, cause that's a picture, you modeled what the picture is, no, I agree.
Exact same thing in fifth grade. I mean, to explain
No,
it.
that's
It was
fine.
like the only way
Way
we
that
can
worked.
explain it.
Now, the regular kids, they need to get more exposure to it, but they seem to be like, oh, because then we did another one. I saw a few that were like, oh, we divide. So then we had to be like, what's the key word? Is that right after the fraction?
That's the word problem.
We
The
divide!
problem
take
is
that-
that they're
Well, then
gonna
go
think
back.
that the 540 is a total. And that's the hard part, to get them to understand that in that situation, it's not.
Exactly.
That was
But
that
it's
conversation.
just- sometimes
What was
though,
the
I will be after
conversation
the
you
fraction
had?
will always be.
It'll say like 4/5
It'll say
of
4/5
an
of an inch. So I tell my kids it's of
But-
the whole. So can you sub
Okay.
what's after of with that whole? If you
Okay.
can't sub that whole into whatever's after of,
Then
then
it's-
it's not multiplying, or
There
not-
you
it
go.
doesn't mean
And I
multiplying.
think too, it goes back to labeling, so if
You
you
don't
know
have
that
to know
540 is the total, they need to be thinking about it and say, oh, if I get something above it, that doesn't make sense, so if it's not multiplying, or if it's not dividing.
Springboard is the
Do
only
the
one who
opposite.
refused to believe me on this, and so I said, fine, divide it.
Of course they did.
And so they're like,
It's like,
well,
no, no, no.
the answer, I forgot what it was.
I agree.
It was like 10,000 something. I was like, okay, if your total's 540, how can you have 10,000? And they were like, oh.
Could you,
I'd also
draw a box?
Okay.
That's what I tell them.
Cuts of flour.
Could you draw a box and then put 4/5 inside the box so you know that the number has to be below the box?
That's a good
I remember
Shove
the-
It is
It's a
in
total.
total, but what's the question asking you for?
I would-
So
I
the
think-
question's
What'd you say, Chuck?
asking, sorry.
So could you draw a box and that would be, represent your 540?
And
I
even
told
label
mine.
it.
Yeah,
That
so
is a
you
total,
have, you
but
can only,
that's not the
That's
total.
not the
you
total
only
you're
have
looking for.
4/5 of that
You're looking
amount,
for
so
the
you know that
total.
it's
So
below
which is
540.
4/5. So it goes like choir.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
your
Yes,
triangle does
I always
work
start taking
for
a
that.
chunk out of it.
But your triangle does work.
And
But then-
I probably would reverse it to where the bottom four are shaded and the top one's empty.
But what is
And
that?
you can't
So that's the
be,
key word.
because I'm thinking it can't be over.
Like had on
Okay.
the answer, right?
Hey,
So-
Bill, I think what Chad did say is really good. He said, if you have them draw the picture, that way they see the total is 540, and then you cut it into the denominator.
But then,
I think that visual is so
if you were
good.
talking to me, I'd be like, well, you're dividing this into
Yeah, I
5
would-
pieces.
Yes, but
Maybe just for the answer, to see that the answer's
It's
smaller.
gonna be less than,
Because
okay.
that goes with
that's
the
less
grade
than,
like
not that it
shading.
would be.
Not for the process, but
Not for
to
the
show
process.
the answer.
Yeah.
I
But,
have had
but
a
you
lot
might
of
not even
experience.
shade it, you might not, like, you might not even have the division. You might just say, okay, this would be about 4/5 of that, so you might shade all that in and not show the division
Uh-huh.
of the
Oh.
lines. And say, okay, this is how much your
No,
answer
Chad,
needs
that
to
works,
be.
though. No, Chad, it does work, because they have to,
I can count.
they would have to shade everything in of 540.
I just
told-
think that
That's
kids
what I
need
mean,
to
so like
think about it.
if you think the lines are gonna confuse them, if you just took your amount and shade all this in.
And don't do the lines.
That's
And
what
don't
I'm
do the
talking about.
line.
Exactly.
I always say.
And then say that this is at 540 right here. But if you have 4/5, that's less than a whole, so I know I need to have less than this number. And if I'm gonna have less than that number, then I know my number has to be smaller than
Is it a
540.
percent bars?
Hey, oh my god, get on my head. I was just thinking, flip it the other way. Like, go back to your percent bars, like 0 to 540. 4/5, you shade that, you know, it goes right back to your percent bars, exactly what.
Good.
For real, she was totally in my head
That's
because
how tough mine
you
is.
still do it. No,
You
I
I
mean,
just tell them, I
and
say,
it's
draw me a
not-
line where 4/5 would be, and
I guess
they
you
put
could
it
do
pretty
that.
close, I said, well, did you just split that into equal groups? No, you're just finding 4/5 of
540.
And this goes back to what we just talked about earlier with the
Yeah.
supporting,
Mhm.
realizing
I know.
before you can do the.
Sometimes though, if the fraction's so big, it's hard to like.
It is.
Yeah.
Or if
But
the
here's
numbers,
what I
but
like, we're going back to our visual, our mom, they struggle with fractions all day long, we know that. Why? Their foundation's not good. Why? Because they cannot picture it in their head. They cannot picture like 3 times 4, well, that's 3 groups of 4, you know what I mean? Like that is still, like, it's a visual, it's a foundational
That's
concept
what-
they don't have in their
because
head.
if I had like
Yeah.
25 40s or something, well, I mean, you're not gonna split your box into 40 and shade in 25, but if we talk about reasonableness, well, we know that half of 40 is 20, so we know that our box needs to be shaded a little bit more than half. So this is how much less, I don't know, just talking to them.
No, I'm telling you, I think the percent bar would work for any of those kids, yeah.
At Springwood,
I do. Just flip it over.
Yeah, if they give you three numbers and you can use.
I have had
You had a
several Springboard kids.
argue with you?
They do, they always
I've had
do.
a lot of them, and I don't say a word because what they're doing is right. They would do 540 divided by 5 and then multiply by 4.
Oh, I can see that.
It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. Listen, if they're
Same
already there,
thing.
they're
It's the
already
same
there.
thing.
Yeah, if they're already there, they're there.
If they
Like,
know
that's
enough,
what they're
if they know
gonna
enough
do.
to split that fraction up like that and break it into 5 pieces and do something.
Yeah, they're there.
They're already high up anyway.
Okay.
What about those bubble kids who could go either way? So they're kind of on the cusp. What would
Having
we
them
do?
really explain what they're doing. I don't know, I think that's the hardest part.
I really like that, actually.
I think practice, I mean, we gotta practice, because I know sometimes they don't necessarily need more, strategies, they just need more practice.
Sometimes they just.
And
And I
Exposure.
think it was either Christina or Austin who said it, but they make them prove it. So every single time, like, don't just let them solve it. Make them draw a picture and
Yeah.
make them prove why it's correct.
Right, because we don't want to just get them to pass it on and push them to grow, right?
Chad, I like that a lot, actually.
Mhm.
Good job, Chad.
I think, no, well, here's why, this supports back our T, it still goes back to supporting the upper, like, if they started drawing percents, they could still say that's 80%.
Mhm.
That was great, what's the percentage here? You throw that back in, we're still spiraling
And then
all
we're
day
getting
long.
for the WAP.
Heck yeah.
For everything.
Mhm.
I like it.
No, I like it, because I think just turn it this way, that's all we need to do.
I agree with the basic, with the middle, Chad. A lot of times they just need more practice, but you don't wanna just give them a page and say, here,
Sorry.
go practice, you wanna do it with
No,
them.
with them.
So you're
Yeah.
saying use the percent.
But I agree.
Yeah, why not? Keep it with percent bars, break it up.
Those are your ones
It's 4/5.
that got it kind of, and not all the way.
Yeah.
I think with your kids that are really struggling, like I know you have one in your class, Miss Bird.
Yes.
I would just sit down and model exactly, like you do the modeling.
Yeah.
And then have her copy, and have her copy like 20 correctly, you know, it's gonna take over time, but have her, don't give her any on her own, cause then it would probably confuse her. But she's probably gonna need a lot more.
Here's what Chad pulled up earlier
Because we
too.
know it's our fraction.
Did you take 5 and 540?
Yeah. Is it 108? I don't know.
Yeah, 108, okay.
I was trying to find the interactive models. I found it a couple years ago, and I just don't know if our
And then,
computer's
well,
supporting it now.
what's 4/5?
But it had the overlay actually on the computer.
Or 108 minus
Took this one and
540.
put it labeled on top, and
No,
it
it's
changed
okay.
it
Graphic
for
color
us.
too,
Right there.
that's cool.
But
Yesterday,
that one,
that was
wasn't it?
number sense,
Yeah.
we were in.
Similar,
his
just
classes,
more
number
opaque.
sense.
Or
Yeah.
not opaque,
Because
because
it's
Well,
always
it's
trying
kind
to
of, there's the same.
Well, what's 12 minus 6?
there's little color things, yeah.
So we won 4,
Yeah.
26.
Okay, I like that. I don't know if it works all the time, but it worked on this
It
problem.
worked on that problem.
Where's the sound?
But it supports the T, but it still supports our T.
We got
And we'll talk about
2/3
percentages.
times one.
I didn't like
Off,
this,
What's,
Yep.
you know.
That's what they don't simplify. Let's say that's awesome. Let's see.
They had an interactive, unless you, maybe Izzy, you've come across it. They used to have one where they had the actual overlays on the computer, where you could take this and the fraction and overlay it, and it would change it.
Huh.
It would color it. I found it like 3 or 4 years
Where
ago.
was
but-
it? See, and I mean, my friends, who kept that stuff, because somebody else asked me a question from 5 years ago that they were looking for, and I was like,
And I just spent time looking at visual models or interactive models. But it would be the same thing as taking two of these and making, but it's already done for you, so you don't have to keep doing it.
That's a good idea.
I have a bunch of these too, do you guys need the,
Or the
yeah,
protectors.
the protectors, to where you can just, if you use light enough color on one and then a darker one on the other, it works.
Yeah, but we're coming to the close after next week pretty much with all teaching for Unit 3. We might not know how we're reviewing quite yet, but we went and put on the agenda looking ahead to Unit 2, because that starts, not next week, but that week right after. So if we could just revisit the common assessment really quick, because our next pay day is the 26th. So we're
is that nice?
Unit 2 is that comparing fractions,
Next
that's
Wednesday,
what.
Wednesday.
I'll be here, so I'll just, if you need anything, just email me.
Okay.
I gotta be at some other conference.
Does that have to do with negative and positive numbers too?
So I'll not bring y'all sonic drinks that day, but I'll bring you sonic drinks, so next time y'all have these. Just in case fifth grade
Yes,
was
it
that,
does.
because I usually do, so.
This one was, ordering, comparing, Venn diagrams with all rationals.
And I think honestly, this was the last one I made, and I could not remember. Apparently, I didn't take very good notes on our first base day of what the common was supposed to be. These are the questions we said, so that's why I wanted us to take a look at it.
This one kills them. Number one.
It might not go this year since we're not doing this from the
We're
beginning.
turning
Yeah,
it
that's true.
into decimals, right?
Cause it should.
That'll be the strategy I teach.
Yeah, they should know it now since I just remember that question was my, butt kicker.
But this whole unit is a big time in 6.4G2.
Mhm.
Which
Oh,
is
yeah,
great.
Get some time, that's awesome, I get some tons of practice.
I like how it just displays the tables, because I teach ordering in tables and lining up decimals. I think it's good visual for them.
Oh, the FDP chart and all that, is that what you're looking at?
Or just like
DQ.
any, like, the word from like number one, it said like 1/10 are for schools, so I would have to make a table where it says school 1/10, and then they'd have to write the decimal.
Oh, good.
Nonfiction, blah, blah, blah.
That's a good idea.
Just so they can line it up really easily.
The fifth grade strategy in this Cook's class was also the same. She had them line up the decimals to the parent and then add the
Mhm.
zeros, so they already doing
Yes.
that.
That way they just
I think we all do that.
Uh-huh.
That
I think so.
way,
But I,
in that
the
first
table
one,
just,
like that.
15% are nonfiction, or whatever,
Yeah.
that way they can, that's the only thing you need to add is
So
percents.
Izzy mentioned maybe adding percents more, so like 15% could be children's books.
You want me to do it real quick?
Y'all
We
want
just
to
need
add
to
a
throw
percent to
percents in
that?
there, cause they'll have percents,
I think
decimals.
thumbs up.
I
Thumbs
get
up.
15%, that's it.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause last time we didn't have the percents yet.
So we get-
Cause we had done, yeah,
But now that mine is on.
exactly.
Just 15%?
Mm-hmm.
These are screenshotted, right?
Yeah, the tables are. So if I need to fix those, then just let me know.
Well, that's good, just throw in one, I
I think
mean, cause
one.
we'll continue it and just, in y'all teaching, you will just make sure you have percents, yeah.
Did
just make
we
sure.
agree upon negative decimals and fractions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I remember us talking.
I remember that debate.
and did we change them to be closer, because they look closer this time?
Yeah.
I don't know if we
Yes.
changed
Yeah,
them
I think
or
we
not.
changed
Okay.
it.
Cause
I remember that being
that was
the day.
yours, I remember that, yes.
Wasn't the last one, didn't we have like different whole numbers, so it made it pretty easy?
Mm-hmm.
I think we gave them number 3 because it's an easier one.
That's good though,
Hopefully.
that's still good, they need, I mean, they.
Well,
Because
that's
it's
still,
successful.
We hit them so hard with the
I know a lot of
big
people.
but that is a big misconception though, because a lot of times they pick,
Mhm.
well, not a lot, but some kids would pick B because they say, oh, 5 is less than 10.
They're like, yeah, no, you're right.
Awesome.
Or A is a good one, cause they'll pick A.
Oh,
Oh yeah, that's true too.
It's in order.
But it's easier, but it'll tell you a misconception if they have it.
Was the so we're all good with the comment?
Really, really quick, what does it say? Is it 1 1/2? Is that 2 in that table?
Here, yeah.
Yeah.
You can see it, okay, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
you
just
can,
blinded.
you
I can see it here. If I can see it from here, then.
I need glasses.
I can't see it. It looks like a 7.
So does least, is there, and there's grades to least, so.
I have glasses.
Or your comments.
Stronger prescription.
Oldest to
I
1
can't
is,
much.
yes, this looks great.
Great, so it's her,
I've got this one. And I think,
least yours.
do we need, well, about to say, do I need to underline?
What it,
Does it say
did we,
greatest to least?
do we have any descending, ascending? Or are we testing that now or later? Because they always get confused with
They
what
do
that
get
means.
ascending.
I would change it.
That's a good idea, yeah.
The order from
Descending order, or I don't. it doesn't matter,
ascending,
I'm just-
oh, right there, you could say,
This one?
for
That one really
in
doesn't make
ascending
sense.
order or something.
Which list shows the name of those students in descending order?
What do you say?
Or it would be ascending,
It'd be
just least
ascending.
to greatest. It'd be ascending.
Is it least to greatest?
Yeah, his A to Z is. Bless you. Well, we have to consensus,
Yeah, I'm not gonna
do
change
we?
that.
So which list shows the names of the students in order from in ascending order
Mm-hmm.
of practice time.
Yeah, cause you only need, yeah.
We good?
Are you good, Chad? Okay.
That's good.
Do you see
Do we
it?
still
I
need to
like
put, do we
that.
still need to put in
Practice.
ascending
Well,
order of
practice.
practice time?
No, I don't think they'll practice
I
time.
thought, I don't know.
I think so, that sounds weird to me, ascending order of practice time.
Yeah, me
I just think ascending order sounds more,
too. Which,
Mine would
which
either if
list
he's
shows
talking about
the?
practice time.
but it's, they should know, just not looking at the names.
It bothers me, I don't like it when words are right up on top of the table, because the kids don't see it and they like don't, I don't know, it's just a silly thing, no, it's just silly, but just face it, thank you. You're
I
good.
normally do that too.
Huh?
I normally do that too.
Just face it down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just because the kids don't like it. They, trust me, they always yell at me, like, kids will freaking tell me, I go with, I don't like what you wrote this test, can you make this face down?
Oh my
Like anytime voice thread, oh, they leave me comments all the time, you know?
So you need to have students
Yes!
edit and review as well.
That's great. Sure, I'll fix it for you.
So good here?
Mhm.
I like it now. The last one was,
Strategies, resources. Oh, last question.
yeah, we looked at it. That's the one I just changed. Strategies. Give me a full.
So, when we made the calendar, we said spiral FDP and then introduce classifying rational numbers. So, what?
I said that's right.
You thought you were opposing it.
Yeah,
Oh.
I thought you were saying something.
Oh, whispering words.
Mm-hmm. And then intro to integers and classify all rational numbers, the Finding Nemo. So we normally show a Finding Nemo clip, and they just watch it, and then I have them write down what they see, like animals or things above the water and things below the water. And me personally, I draw the water line, and then I talk about what does the water line represent. So hopefully they say 0, and then we talk about what goes above the cliff. So that's just how we introduce it.
I'm pretty sure Chris last year, which I thought was really cool, in his journal he had a coordinate grid, and so he used the coordinate grid to draw the ocean and then to draw the pictures.
Yeah.
So that way it ties in
Mhm.
later.
I don't remember how I did that now.
You had your students like get real into it, I think. It was cool.
Mhm.
Maybe it was.
Gillian,
I know,
Gillian
I
put
did something
the-
like that too.
Gillian put everything on a coordinate grid, and he
Mhm.
just, but he had it up all year round, so, and he put the animals on the top and the bottom.
Yeah.
But then also you could do, when we get to classifying with Pokemon.
like the generic Pokemon names.
Mhm. Or just use Pokemon cards because they're innocent.
We can do that hot air balloon activity.
No.
That's not yet.
That's not.
Oh, yeah, that's not yet. I'm just getting
That's
excited
next
for
year.
it.
I don't, I'm trying to. wrap
Thank
my-
you, Kelsey, for suggesting that, I appreciate it.
Caitlin was getting really into it on PD day.
No, I was, I really was. Remember that?
I don't remember, we said at first, like when we just do negatives, this is just integers, right? We're not doing decimals yet.
Right.
So
Well-
we're starting real
Real basic,
basic.
right?
That's
And
what I
then just
thought.
adding it in like the next week or
As
so.
we go, yeah. Especially with integers, because they don't, is either in fifth grade,
I don't want
it's
them
not
getting
integers,
confused
right?
with that's
negative.
Your advanced classes, yes.
Yes.
But fifth grade regular, it was hit or miss depending on if the kid was advanced or if they were getting pulled for STAR. Now, if they were not getting pulled for retake, they failed STAR the second time, which you didn't have a lot, they moved on to integers. So they talked about integers, they didn't,
So
they kind of have an idea of them.
okay. So I would say start basic, I wouldn't throw negative decimals at them the first 2-3 days.
Sure.
But this one's not too bad because it is such a big FDP spiral unit. The only new thing is the compare and order on the number lines and the classifying.
The bigger the negative, the smaller the number.
So I will be coming to y'all a lot
Yeah.
during these couple weeks, I can tell already.
They like
Did you have
it.
integers or something?
Well, and this unit's a lot,
Yeah.
this unit has a lot of
I mean,
space
some
at
of
the
it,
end, so you
sometimes
could
yeah.
tie
The
back
beginning of it,
in
not
6-3.
all the
Yeah.
So there's a lot of.
We, like I said, we only did it for the advanced classes last
Yeah.
year for fifth, and then some of the regulars got it, but some did, you know. it
Now, I
just
did,
depended.
I introduced it for all of my groups, I mean,
Yeah.
last year, but, yeah, like, my thing is gonna be just not knowing what it means by student created classification. That's it.
Well, and this is more basic, like,
Okay.
this was just a real basic outline
Get a lesson.
for us, yeah. We'll do like an actual lesson,
Oh,
so.
good. Okay.
Yeah, so it's not too bad.
Awesome.
Is it, was that with the number